He stepped onto the plane with the quiet grace of a man who had seen the world, leaning slightly on a sleek black cane, his silver hair catching the cabin lights, a crisp boarding pass in one hand, and a folded newspaper in the other. His name was Leonard Brooks, age 74, dressed in a tailored gray suit that fit him like it had been custom-made for his posture, straight-backed, slow-stepping, yet unshakably firm. He nodded politely to the flight crew as he stepped into first class. "Morning," he said, calm but warm. "No fuss, no airs." He tucked his leather briefcase beneath seat 1A, settled into the wide cushion with practiced ease, and opened his paper, the rustling sound barely audible over the soft hum of pre-boarding activity. He didn't look around. Didn't need to. He wasn't there to impress anyone. He was there to fly quietly, peacefully. It wasn't long before the calm began to fracture. A few rows behind him, a couple chatted softly. A businessman scrolled through his phone. A young woman adjusted her earbuds. The kind of ambient life you expect in first class. Until a voice-sharp clip broke the flow of background noise. "Excuse me, sir," said a woman standing just beside him, arms crossed tight over her navy uniform. Leonard glanced up slowly, folding his paper. "Yes. Are you sure you're in the right seat?" she asked, her tone too loud and too certain. "I am," Leonard replied. "Seat 1A. I'll need to see your ticket." He handed it over without hesitation. The boarding pass clearly marked, "Leonard Brooks, Seat 1A, First Class." She flipped it once, twice, her eyes scanning it longer than necessary. "This is for first class," she stated. "Yes," Leonard said plainly. "That's correct." But she didn't move on. She didn't smile, didn't nod. Instead, she turned slightly, glancing toward the front of the plane like she needed backup. Passengers nearby began to glance over. Someone leaned toward their neighbor. The hush of curiosity filled the air. "I'll need to confirm this with the gate," she said, her voice stiff, gaze averted. "Please remain seated." Leonard offered a polite nod and folded his hands calmly over the head of his cane. He didn't argue. He didn't flinch. But behind those calm brown eyes, something changed. The kind of change only a lifetime of quiet injustice can teach you how to carry. In the galley, the flight attendant, her name was Mallory James, picked up the phone, her knuckles white against the receiver. "There's a man in 1A, she said to the agent on the other end. "Name's Leonard Brooks. Can you confirm his booking?" There was a pause. Then a voice replied, muffled but clear enough to make Mallory's jaw tighten. "Confirmed. Fully paid. Booked weeks in advance." Mallory hung up the phone slowly, her face unreadable. The younger flight attendant beside her, Carly, tilted her head. "So he belongs there," Carly said gently. Mallory's eyes narrowed. "He just doesn't look the part." Carly blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" Mallory didn't answer. She straightened her posture, smoothed her uniform, and walked back toward first class. She stopped in front of Leonard. "I'm going to need you to step aside," she said, her voice colder than before. "There's a problem with your booking. Please follow me to the galley." Leonard looked up slowly, his paper folded neatly beside him. His eyes locked on hers, not angry but tired. "What kind of problem?" "I can't discuss it here." He stood without argument, steadying himself with his cane. He looked around at the passengers now openly staring. He gave a soft nod to no one in particular and followed Mallory down the aisle. No fuss, no scene. But everyone noticed. In the galley, she motioned for him to stand to the side. "We're still verifying some details," she said. "There might have been a computer error. We'll get it sorted." Leonard didn't say a word. He leaned slightly on the wall. He didn't protest. But he also didn't smile. Back in the cabin, Carly's eyes were wide. The man in seat 2B leaned toward his wife. "Did you see that?" The guy was quiet. Polite. "Why'd they move him?" "She said it was a booking issue," his wife replied. He showed her the ticket. The air in first class began to shift. What was once just a routine boarding process now hung heavy with unease. In the cockpit, the captain received a direct message from the airline's operations. He read the name, Leonard Brooks. Then his expression changed. "He's on board?" the co-pilot asked. "Seat 1A," the captain confirmed. "He's not just a passenger. He's on the advisory board." Back in the galley, Mallory's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her face losing color. Leonard said nothing, just stood quietly watching her reaction. "I've received some information," she said finally, her voice almost cracking. "You may return to your seat." Leonard didn't reply right away. He looked at her. Just looked. Then he turned, walked back to 1A with slow dignity, and sat down. Mallory followed a few steps behind, her shoulders tense. He turned to her before sitting. "I'll sit," he said quietly. "But I don't forget." Then he opened his newspaper again, though he didn't read it. Back in the galley, Carly stared at her coworker. "You found out who he is, didn't you?" Mallory didn't answer. "You didn't need to know who he was," Carly continued. "You just needed to treat him with respect." In first class, Leonard sat still, watching people try to pretend they hadn't seen what they saw. But he knew they had. And so did the airline. Word spread fast. The captain called down to the ground. A formal report was being compiled before the plane even left the tarmac. Mallory was summoned to provide a full statement upon landing. The corporate office had been notified. The board would see everything. Leonard never raised his voice. Never threatened. He didn't have to. By the time the plane reached cruising altitude, Mallory knew her job was in jeopardy. Carly avoided her. Passengers gave her sidelong glances. Leonard hadn't said another word, but his presence was louder now than anything else in the cabin. When Carly came by with coffee, Leonard nodded at her. "You've been respectful," he said. "Thank you." She smiled, though it was tight with unease. "That's how people should be treated." The man across the aisle leaned in again. "Sir," he said quietly, "are you someone important in the company?" Leonard gave a single nod. "One of the original advisors. Helped found it. Still sit on the board." The man swallowed. "I'm so sorry," Leonard replied with a simple, "Thank you." In the cockpit, the captain was given final instructions. "Prepare for corporate team to board upon landing. They'll handle the passenger and speak to Miss James." Carly overheard and stepped into the galley. "You going to apologize properly?" she asked Mallory. He went back to his seat, Mallory said defensively. "That's not enough." When the plane landed, Mallory was asked to remain on board. Passengers filed out slowly. Many gave Leonard a respectful nod. One older woman paused beside him. "I hope you make them feel what you felt," she said. Leonard looked up. "I won't have to raise my voice. They've already heard me." Two executives stepped aboard. One approached Leonard. "Mr. Brooks, thank you for your patience. We'd like to speak with you privately." "I've got time," he said, rising with his cane. Mallory watched him go, standing frozen in the galley. Her hands trembled as she waited. She was led to a separate room inside the terminal. The executive sat across from her. "This isn't a routine conversation," he said. "A full review of your conduct is underway." She tried to defend herself. "I didn't mean to." "Intent is irrelevant," he interrupted. "Impact is what matters." Meanwhile, Leonard was seated in a quiet lounge. Across from him, a board member had just finished apologizing. "I've spent a lifetime trying to build something better," Leonard said. "Something fair. And still, here we are." "We're taking steps," the board member said. "I'll believe it when I see it." And he would. Because what started on Flight 417 wasn't over. It was only just beginning. And it started with a seat. A quiet man. And a silence that shook an entire airline.